guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. My name is Heather. I'm a homeschooling mom of 3 kids, elementary, middle/high school, and high school age. Today I'm going to be sharing all of the books that I've been reading in January, so let's get started. Okay guys, I am recording this later than I had hoped, but you will just have to bear with me. The end of January has been a little bit crazy. I have not even written out my goals for February yet. It's January 31st when I'm recording this. I don't know when I'm going to post this video. Hopefully soon. We shall see. But I do have my book journal here, and so I'm going to share the books that I have read this month. I have read 17 books this month, and 7 of them are audiobooks. So I want to share that. I love audiobooks. I think that it's super helpful to have a book to listen to when you're doing cleaning tasks or walking or, exercising or doing whatever. That is what I tend to do when I'm doing more mindless tasks. Instead of listening to music or podcasts, I usually listen to audiobooks. So I'm just going to go through and share. I did read quite a few 5-star reads, and I do have some that are rereads for me. A lot of them actually are rereads for me. So the first book that I'm going to share is actually a book that I finished December 31st, but I did want to include it because it was on my goals TBR list for 2024, and that is Jon Acuff's All It Takes Is a Goal. And I'd heard about this book on a video that Plan with Lakin had done about some books that she was reading in the fall or maybe in the summer. I can't quite remember when. And I love any sort of goal setting books. I really do enjoy them. And I have enjoyed all of Jon Acuff's other books, Start, Finish, Your New Playlist, which is a book geared towards teens, which my daughter read at the beginning of January. And then Soundtracks is another one that he wrote in the past several years that I really, really enjoyed. All It Takes Is a Goal. It was really chaotic to me, and I am not sure that it was the right type of goal book for me. It seemed really all over the place, and I waffled between giving it 2 and 3 stars because it was just so all over the place. I did read it in ebook version, so perhaps if I had read it in a physical copy, it would be a little bit different. And I have considered trying to find a physical copy. I couldn't find one at the library. The only copy I could find was through Hoopla, which is our digital library app for our public library. And it was good. There were some good points in it, but it was not for me, I don't think, for goals. So that was the first book, which was actually a December 2023 book, but I did want to share it because it was on my TBR. The next book that I have is Joy of Missing Out by Tanya Dalton. And I gave this 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. There were so many good nuggets of information in there. There was nothing really groundbreaking or new to me, but it was a very encouraging book on, not glorifying busy. And my word of the year this year is simplify, and it is kind of a continuation of my word for 2023, which was slow. And so I really, really did like that book quite a bit. I definitely recommend it. The next book that I read is Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas, and actually I have all of the Throne of Glass books on here from Crown of Midnight to Kingdom of Ash. I was reading that in preparation for the 3rd Crescent City book coming out, which is over there, that I started yesterday. And I have read this series before one time, I think in 2021 or 2022 was when I read it the first time. I've only read it one time through. I read it the second time. I loved it more the second time, I think, just because I was able to pick out other little nuggets of information throughout the books that are so much more interconnected than I expected. I have read ACOTAR before as well, and I thought I would be able to read through that before I started Crescent City 3. I did not. This was the first time that I actually read Tower of Dawn, my first time through Throne of Glass. I did not read Tower of Dawn, and I ended up doing the tandem read of Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms together, which I think was really good. And I was bouncing back between audiobook and ebook of these books because depending on what I was doing throughout the day. Tower of Dawn was the only book in this series that I gave 4 stars, and I'm not going to go into spoilers and stuff like that, but the characters that are in Tower of Dawn are not my favorites, and so it is what it is. It was a good book, and it did add to the story, and it filled in a few holes for me from when I had read the series the first time and totally skipped over that book, which I do think you can do. If you don't want to read Tower of Dawn, I do think it's possible. So I did read all of those Sarah J. Maas books throughout January and gave all of them 5 stars, except Tower of Dawn was 4 stars. The next book that I have is The Next Right Thing by Emily P. Freeman, and I have read this book before. I think it came out in 2019, and I read it in 2019. I gave it 5 stars. It was really, really good. There was a lot of books and things in there. One thing that really jumped out to me was her discussion of becoming a soul minimalist, and a lot about making a most important list and really sticking to that. It was very encouraging. And actually, a lot of the books that I am rereading right now are books that I read in 2019 as I was getting ready for 2020 and really trying to slow my life down and figuring out some different strategies. We were kind of trying to figure things out in our family as far as where we were going to live and what our processes were. And 2020 obviously did not turn out at all how any of us expected. And so a lot of the principles and things that I thought I would implement in 2020 did not happen. And I think that's part of the reason why I'm reading a lot of those books again now, and that I'm being drawn back to them because I had specific things that I wanted to do, that I had been really formulating in 2018 and 2019 and figuring out ways to implement little habit changes and new rhythms and routines. And I just was not able to do that in 2020 because of all of the chaos that happened. So now it's 2024 and it's time for me to actually implement some of those things. I really like that book. I think that it is a great book, very, very encouraging. The next book that I read is On Purpose by Tanya Dalton. Again, that was another 5-star review. I'm going back and forth between my notes and my list of books, just in case you are curious what I'm doing. I pulled out a lot of information from that book and took a lot of notes. What Are Your Lost Dreams? Thinking About Deep Work, which is another great book by Cal Newport, I believe, that's really, really helpful in creating habits and rhythms and routines and making sure that you are doing the things that are most important to you. There are so many things that vie for our attention throughout the day, and a lot of them really don't matter in the grand scheme of things. And so kind of ranking those things and figuring out what you're okay to live with and what you're okay to just let go of is very important. There was a lot of information in this book about time blocking, and she does it a little bit differently than how I do time blocking. I think I would like to get a physical copy of this book to annotate better than just the notes that I have here. I really, really liked it. There were a lot of actionable steps. Definitely recommend it. That was 5 stars. The next book that I have is Life in 5 Senses by Gretchen Rubin. I loved her book, The Happiness Project, which came out years and years ago, I think probably 10, 11 years ago. And I actually think I'm going to reread that book because of some of the things that she talked about in this book. I pulled out a lot of great quotes. One is, which was a little convicting, I often get up at 4:30 or 5 a.m. to work. I'd always assumed that I made the shift to take advantage of my morning person energy patterns. In fact, I realized I also do it to give myself hours of silence before my family wakes up. And that really resonated with me because I get up very, very early and I crave that morning quiet time. And when I don't have it, my days feel a lot more chaotic. And it was really interesting to read that because I'd never considered it that way. I just assume that I'm a morning person and that's why I get up so early. I know that I like to have a lot of quiet. I know that I don't like to speak to people in the morning. I've known that about myself since I was very, very young. Reading that in print was very interesting to me. This book is about Gretchen's experience exploring the five senses and really focusing on them throughout a year and identifying things that are comfortable and uncomfortable for her within the five senses. I definitely recommend it. It's a very quick read, really good book. I gave it 5 stars. The next book that I have is The Ever King by L.J. Andrews. I gave this 3.5 stars. It is fantasy and it was just okay. It was okay. I definitely think that it could have been better. The next book that I have, I'm skipping over all of the Throne of Glass books, which are interspersed between all of the nonfiction books. The next book is another reread for me, which I reread pretty much every year, I would say, and that is The Tech-Wise Family by Andy Crouch. And I think that I misquoted how he approaches technology. I said 1 day a week, 1 weekend a month, 1 week a year, but it is actually 1 hour a day, 1 day a week, and 1 week a year. And I have been spending so much time thinking about technology and how I use technology. I don't personally feel as though I need to get on social media all of the time for my personal reasons. The only time I get on social media is because of my online business. And I really don't like social media. I don't like the algorithm. It kind of grates against what I think is okay. I am from an era long ago where I joined Instagram specifically for the instant part of the gram. You get on there and you see who of your friends has posted a picture in that moment, and that's what you see first. It's a chronological feed, but now everything is based on an algorithm. And I think because I am a rebel on Gretchen Rubin's 4 Tendencies, if you've not read that book, it's a really, really good book. When somebody tells me that this is how I have to see things, it really bothers me. And so I don't think that the algorithm gets me all that much, but it does, because when I go on to Instagram Reels, I will see a lot of book reels and get a lot of book suggestions. So for that aspect of it, yes, the algorithm gets me. But for the general, just social media stuff, I just don't care about people's vacations and their beauty stuff and what they are doing that's so wonderful. I like to see family pictures and that kind of stuff. So I really like The Tech-Wise Family. It is from a Christian worldview, so be aware of that if that bothers you. But I think that I have been evaluating my tech usage so much and trying to figure out ways that I can just get away from tech. It's not an important thing for me. A lot of my passion project things that I enjoy doing, like creating videos and writing on my website, those are things that use technology. But are there other time sucks that I can get rid of within my days and weeks and months and years? Yes. Are there times when I am off screens during the day? Yes. Are there days? We do take a screen-free day in our homeschool week. And so I do that, but I want to expand upon it. And I'm actually, well, if you go and you look at my TBR video, I do have a lot of books on there that are about technology usage, and I have taken a few out of the library. The Winter of Our Disconnect is one of those that I read years ago that I really liked, and another one is, I cannot remember the name of it right now, and it's gonna drive me insane. I will put a picture of it here. It is written by the daughter of the woman who wrote the Complete Encyclopedia to Country Living or something like that. Again, I'll put another picture here because I'm not getting that title correct. It's really interesting to read those memoirs. I'm also reading an old series from, I can't remember the guy's name. So I shouldn't just come on here and just chat about things that I can't remember, but it is all about his year without internet, and it really appeals to me. Now, of course, all of those books and authors of articles are getting paid to do these experiments, whereas if I took a year off the internet, nobody's paying me to do that. And so the motivation behind that that challenge or that experiment is a little bit different for somebody in real life, but figuring out where I'm comfortable with tech usage and how to use that in my family and teaching my kids good habits about it. We're not a no tech family at all. If you've seen any of my videos, you know that my kids love screens. They love coding. Jack, his passion project is creating a video game. Emma wrote a first draft of her book and so did a lot of research about that. She loves animation and digital art and things. So I don't foresee us giving up technology overall, but coming up with boundaries and putting parameters in place on when we use technology and how to use it is very important. And one thing that I heard years and years and years ago, I think Tish Oxenreider said this, it could have been somebody else, create before you consume. And so my goal has always been to create more than I consume. And that's kind of been a guidepost for me. And it's something that I'm trying to teach my kids as well. I give them a lot more leeway if they are creating rather than consuming. So we're not just sitting on YouTube and watching YouTube, we're creating something. And then if we need to look something up on YouTube, how to do something, that's okay. Anyways, I really like that book, 5 stars. I am going to read My Tech-Wise Life, which I own that book. It's down on my shelves behind me. And that is written by Andy Crouch's daughter, and it's her experience growing up this way. They did not have a TV until their kids were double digits. Their kids did not have phones, and they practiced this 1 hour a day, 1 day a week, 1 week a year. No screens practice or no tech practice. And so I'm going to read that aloud with my older 2 kids at some point, probably in February or March. The next book that I read was Year of No Sugar by Eve O. Schaub, and I only gave this 2.5 stars. I have read her other books, which were Year of No Clutter and Year of No Garbage, which I really liked. This was her first book, and so maybe that's why I didn't like it as much. I like the experiment itself. Sugar is in everything. It doesn't need to be. I like that she involved her whole family. What I didn't like was that she essentially replaced sugar with dextrose. And so essentially she just tried to recreate everything that she normally did with alternative sweeteners. And to me, that's not a year of no sugar. That's just replacing it with something else. Perhaps it's not as bad for your body, but the idea of a year of no sugar to me is a little bit different. So they were really, really specific about like not having condiments, but then they would make pies and cakes and cookies with dextrose, just replacing sugar with dextrose, or I think brown rice syrup. And there was another one that she had that was okay. And that's just like maybe a little bit of a different sweet. So I didn't like it. It wasn't a good book for me, but I did like her other 2 books if you are interested in those. The next book that I have is Until the Streetlights Come On by Ginny Urich, who I don't think I'm pronouncing her name correctly. She came up with the 1,000 Hours Outside experiment, which I haven't really followed that over the years. We did do a 1,000 Hours Outside challenge last year, and we met it by the summer. And so I felt really good about that. I'd never tracked how much time we spend outside. So it was nice to see that we are actually spending a lot of time outside. There was nothing new or groundbreaking in this book for me. It's a lot of stuff that I know already, a lot from Simplicity Parenting, which I read years ago when it came out, and a lot of books that I had read, you know, maybe early like 2008 to 2012, that she pulled a lot of research from that time period of those books, and I've read all of those books. It's a good book. I feel like if you are maybe a newer parent and you haven't read a lot of those older outside, no tech books, this might be a good one. It might be motivating for you. I gave it 3 stars. It was just okay for me. The next book that I have is House of Sky and Breath, and I power read that, finishing on the 29th, right before I went to go get the new Crescent City book on the 30th, and I loved it. It was really good. I gave it 5 stars. I gave it 5 stars when I read it last year as well. And I was rereading it specifically because I've only read it once, and I knew that I was going to be reading this book and I just needed a refresher. And I love to go back and reread good fantasy series. I mean, I used to do this with Harry Potter as well. When you go back and reread it with the knowledge of what has happened in the future, you pull out so many more details and things that you didn't see the first time or you didn't notice the first time. And so I love that book. It was really good. I'm really enjoying Crescent City 3 as well. And then the last book that I read in January is called Make Time by Jake Knapp and John Zaratsky. And I gave that 5 stars. I took a ton of notes on that book. It was really, really good. It has little challenges on how to focus your time. Their whole premise is to have a highlight each day, a single focal point, laser focus, beat distraction to make time for your highlight, energize, use the body to recharge the brain, meaning like exercise, food, sleep, quiet, face-to-face interaction, and then reflect daily, adjust and improve your system, and take notes. And there were so many little nuggets of information in here. The chapters are relatively short because each chapter is kind of broken down into 5 or 6 small action steps that you can take. They're not expecting you to do every single thing in this book. They're expecting you to take one tip here and there and try to implement it in your life. And if it works, keep it. And if it doesn't, let it go. I really liked how they talked about highlight for your day. It's a 60 to 90 minute focus. It can be something urgent, something that brings satisfaction, or something that brings joy to your life. And then they talk about how to come up with a way to choose your highlight each day. I really liked how they give you the option to pick something joyful or fulfilling as your highlight for the day. It doesn't mean that you have to be working constantly. And I think that's what I really appreciated about this book. It's not focused on just productivity. Yes, productivity is a big part of it, but also finding joy in your days or finding satisfaction with completing something is also a big part of it. And understanding that, it's something that I am working on. They talk a lot about busyness just for busyness sake, always having a to-do list. I always have a to-do list. I always have a to-do list. But this year I'm really working to try and simplify that to-do list by figuring out what are the most important tasks. Even going back to my home management goal last year, the thing that really helped me was to figure out what were the things that were things that I needed to do each day in order to feel good about my home and how clean my home was and how things were going. And those 4 things are clearing my floors of toys and papers and books, etc., vacuuming because we have a giant Great Pyrenees who is snoring under my desk at the moment. You may hear her. Clearing the surfaces in my main living space, like the dining room, kitchen, living room, and then clearing my office desk. If those 4 things are done every day, my house just feels great to me. I feel good about walking room to room. It's not as stressful. I don't have as much visual clutter that really bogs me down and makes it hard for me to do other things. So I definitely recommend this book. I wrote tons of quotes. And then there were a whole list of books in the back that there are several that I've already read, but some that I want to also read. And so I have a whole new book list I'm constantly adding to a TBR. Now that I've accepted that I want to read off of a TBR, I am finding all of the books. So those are the books that I read in the month of January. It's January 31st. I do not think that I will finish Crescent City 3 today. I'm only about 30% of the way into that book right now, so It's probably going to take me a couple more days. I think it's like 860 pages or something like that. But I hope that you enjoyed this video. There was a lot of nonfiction and Sarah J. Maas this month. I don't know how that will be in February. I haven't been reading a ton of nonfiction over the past couple of years because I've really tried to focus more on fiction books in the past couple of years because I'd gotten away from that. I actually love nonfiction. I'm one of those weird people that really loves nonfiction books and fiction books. But I had been focusing so much time on nonfiction, personal development type books, and homeschool books over the past really 10 years. And then the past couple of years, I said, you know what? I really want to read more fiction. And so I got back to that, and I'm happy that I have. The first quarter of the year tends to be a lot of nonfiction for me because I'm thinking about goals, because I'm thinking about new strategies on how I want to improve my life, different steps that I want to take, all of that stuff. So it's probably going to be a little more nonfiction, personal development heavy in this first quarter. But I want to thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you have questions about anything that I chatted about, definitely leave me a comment. If you're interested in more book talk, I do talk a lot about books over in my membership community. I have posts each month where we share all of the books that we're reading, and we deep dive a lot on specific books. More personal development type books for homeschooling and home management. So I would love to see you over there. You can find that link in the description box. But again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks, guys. Bye.